Well, hey, welcome back in. If I haven't met you, my name is Pastor David. And man, as a church, Portrait Church, we are in a series called Relationship Reset, just trying to get better in our parenting, our marriage, our friendships, everything in between. And so this podcast is a supplement to our Sunday conversation. And I'm really excited because for this pod, I have a professional licensed counselor that does a lot of therapy with marriages and families to join me and to speak into this. And so please welcome Dean Wisdom.
Thank you. Thanks, David. Thanks for having me.
By the way, wisdom and counseling, that's like the best combination of a last name ever.
I appreciate that.
You know?
My dad gave me the name, so.
Yeah, it's good. It is good. I found one gray hair on me the other day. It was on my arm. I had to like pluck it, and I'm like, I don't know if this is age or wisdom. Or what is this thing? So, give everybody just a little bit of backstory for you.
Okay.
When you first reached out to me, what grabbed my attention is that you were a Dallas Theological Seminary guy.
Yeah.
That's where I went to seminary when I felt called to ministry. So that's a cool connection that we've got. But I know from us sitting down a little bit that you've had a really interesting journey into this career field. So just kind of unpack your story a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm a native Dallasite. I'm an older guy, 63. I've been around quite a while. I got saved when I was 19 in college at A&M, and I felt a call to serve, really. Not a specific call to ministry, but really to serve, and so I wanted to get better equipped. I went to Dallas Seminary. It took about 8 years to get through that program, and because I was working full-time, and I never received like a call, but I've had such a burden to serve the Lord after I was saved. And, and I felt like getting trained was like the most important thing. When I came back to Dallas and just got involved in a local church, Northwest Bible Church, and started doing a lot of service with single adults and small groups, discipleship. Got married a little bit later, and when I was about 40 or so, and so took a long time to wait for a spouse, and we had this crazy opportunity to adopt triplets. We were not able to have kids, and we went through the whole infertility kind of thing and medication, and we were praying for 4 kids. But we had this crazy opportunity to adopt, and we adopted triplets when they were about a year old.
Man.
And they're
God
girls.
bless you. Yeah.
And they're girls, beautiful girls, about 100% Mexican and just lovely. And we got them home, and about 2 weeks later, we found out we were naturally pregnant with our 4th.
Wow.
And
so you got the 4.
We did.
Wow.
So for me, I always look back of how God answers prayer, when it's timing. And so, and this is kind of about the time I decided to change careers. I was in banking and consulting for a long time. And I thought, if I go into counseling, I can use my training to serve people, but I can also fulfill my ministry and make a living. And so I went back and got another master's degree at UNT and started working in private practice. And really so by then my kids were about 4 or 5, excuse me. And let me get a drink here.
Yeah. I was going to say, while you're taking a drink, it's funny that you decided to go back to school and switch careers once the kids came and all of that thing. So it was the same thing I did with my wife. It's like I rope-a-doped her. We started it. I was like, yes, hey, dude, let's get married. I'm gonna be in advertising sales. And then I'm like, oh, psych.
Yeah.
Yeah, pastoring. So
second career. But pretty soon I was having daddy problems. And so, we had like an instant preschool at home, and I was losing my temper.
Yeah.
I was spanking in anger. I was raising my voice. I was doing a lot of things I don't advocate. And I had a friend that said, you should go back and take a play therapy course just to be a better dad. I went back and took some postgraduate work in play therapy. And the one thing I started doing differently is I started playing intentionally just one time a week with each of my girls. And as a result, my feelings and my behavior changed. And my character changed, I think, and then by default, given time, their behavior changed. And so I thought, gosh, I can do this in my counseling. So I went back and got more training in play therapy, and now I'm like a registered play therapist guy. And so I see all ages. I see adults, couples. I see little kids that are very young in play therapy. I see teens. So I love the broad span that it gives me.
Yeah, versus being so singular and tightly focused.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So are there with everything that you're dealing with? I mean, especially because you're doing things from like marriage all the way down to even helping kids and everything like that.
Yep.
What are maybe the most pressing issues people are coming into you looking to resolve right now? Maybe are there some consistent themes that you've seen across generations?
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest things is just disconnection. And so whether it's with a couple, whether it's parenting, or whether it's with kids. And so when I say disconnection, you can think, well, the opposite of that is connection to most likely some of the wrong things or not the unhealthy things. And so by disconnection, I mean it just seems like the quality of time that people are spending is not just less and less, it's actually almost non-existent in some ways. Because I do ask questions like, how much time are y'all spending just one-on-one, just with each other? And I hate to say, David, but a lot of times with parents, it's almost zero. So a lot of us are, as families, we spend a lot of time doing family stuff, errands and practices and sports and activities and school events and dinners. But in terms of one-on-one, just playing with our kids or spending time with our kids, it's really almost non-existent. And I ask parents with kids of all ages. Then the second thing I'd say is then I check in with the parents, and of course as parents we put ourselves last. So then even the couples are spending very little intentional time with each other.
Wow, that's actually really interesting. Because Jenna and I last week we were talking about this within the podcast, and it was interesting because we didn't really bring this up, but there's been seasons obviously in our marriage that we feel like we're more co-parenting together, but not necessarily like husband-wife, or we're co-leading together, but not really enjoying each other's company, just as friends and as a married couple. But what we didn't really hit on is also this something I kind of dropped the ball on, but when we first had kids, my parents were always like, make sure that you keep dating your spouse, do those things. And so we did that, and we were really pretty religious about keeping date nights. And we did a great job at dating one another up until we planted Portrait. And then the demands for our time became heavier, I think, from the standpoint of like other people wanting to meet with Jenna and I both.
Yeah.
And them not being able to do that unless it was at nighttime and things along those lines. And so before I even blinked and realized it, I was like, man, we've been 7 months without a date. Now we've gone on a date, but then there was another couple there, and it really wasn't a date. We were just hanging out with another couple and having a conversation with other people in our church and things like that.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting, and I can totally relate to what you're saying about just the lack of the quality time. I even read one study that said that the time that they're spending with friends has decreased by about 20 hours a month.
I can believe it.
Yeah.
I can believe it. I mean,
so you're seeing that then just basically across the board impact negatively, relationships with parents and their kids, and then in between husbands and wives as well.
Yeah, I would say it goes horizontally, but like what you're describing, I'm sure that those relationships that y'all built within Portrait and your community, it enriches you, right? It enriches your relationships, but then there's that intimate time with each other. One thing I'd say is, the good news is as couples, you don't have to go out on dates. I think that's a good thing to do, but that one-on-one time can really be like the end of the day conversation after the kids are in bed.
That is such a good point, because I've shared that with people before, and they're like, well, we just got married and we don't even have money to go out. It's expensive around here, which is true. Yeah. And Jenna and I have been in those seasons where it's like, we can't afford the $75 to go to, dinner plus pay for a babysitter or whatever the cost is and things like that. Yeah. But what we have noticed is like, there's been a slow creep where getting the kids into bed at night, for instance, has been more challenging. So we'll divide and conquer. One of us will fall asleep in the other kid's room, and then we come down and then the spouse is already asleep downstairs, or whatever the situation. And we've been trying to get better at that, because the times that we can both get into the bedroom at the same time and even just have 5-10 minutes of wind down and connect time to talk and debrief on the day. I know I have personally just felt so much more connected to Jenna when we do that.
Yeah.
And I know that she said, oh, that was really nice to just get to catch up and chat without, every 2 seconds, mom, 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 and that sort of thing. And so that's a really an astute point that you bring up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a real basic thing on that is structuring the night. It can be hard when you're, trying to get your kids out of your bed, your dogs out of your bed, the cats out of your bed.
Right.
And really focusing on, just an extra 30 minutes is huge.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
And that's honestly been Jen and I's biggest struggle, I think, is our nighttime. We both get so tired. And then we just default to, oh, yeah, just tonight, Cam, that's fine. We won't put you down to bed in your room tonight. Like tonight, you can just stay here. And then next thing you know, you got another minion in the room, and that connection's disrupted. And or it's just like, again, it's like, oh, what's the path to least resistance? When we get tired, Jen and I, our patterns, we default to some unhealthy habits when we get tired and let our exhaustion take over.
That's right. I think the other connection problem that we're all having is the device, right, or the screen. It could be the TV. It could be a lot of scrolling. I'd say, and when I meet with couples talking about their relationship, that's one thing that really gets in the way of, well, when I want to connect with you, you're on your device or you're watching sports, something like that. I
think you just came into my living room conversation with Jenna. We literally, like the week I was going into the conversation I was going to bring to the church about nothing's more powerful than your personal presence. Yeah. So this was about 2 weeks ago, and we talked about how our presence carries the power that technology never can, and stuff.
Right.
And so going into that week, we were sitting at the dinner table. Kids are there. We're doing our family dinner. Kids get up from the table, and I immediately pull out my phone and start scrolling on Instagram. And Jenna's still sitting there at the table. And I get up. Well, then she actually then asked me, maybe 5 minutes go by or a couple minutes, whatever it was. And she was like, what's so important on your phone? And I looked down, and I'm like, nothing is that important, right? Yeah. But the connection had already been, I was like, dang, I'm recovering. Like I'm a recovering phone crack addict. It's like a sixth finger. But man, the connection had already been broken at that point. Then I didn't even realize this because then it continued. It spiraled worse. I'll let you in on this. So then I can't remember what I did. I think I went out to the mailbox or something like that. I come back in, and now I'm having a bowl of cereal. That's like my go-to. I love cereal after dinner. It's like my dessert. So I'm crushing some Cookie Crisp, and I'm sitting at now like the island table or counter. I didn't even know what Jen was doing, and I pulled out my phone again as I'm eating cereal. Come to find out the next day, Jen was like, I was wanting to hang out with you, but you were still nose down in the phone. But we'd moved on from that moment. She went to another room, but then she just saw it and was like, well, he's busy. And then she was upstairs that same night and was trying to get the kids ready for bed. And I was like down there doing the coffee and then also looking on the phone. And she yells over the railing, get off your phone. I'm like, how does she know?
She can feel it.
She can. So anyway, that's been like our biggest point of contention, and it's on me, is actually the phone issue specifically has been really hard. Now she would say, I'll prop myself up a little low-key flex for a minute. That was a relapse. I've gotten significantly better.
Good job.
But I've had to fight it like crazy.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did is I got this device. It's called a brick. Have you ever heard of that? It's like this little square thing, and then it's got what are those called? RFQ or like those little tap. Like we got the tap tag things at church. Okay. It's that same.
Oh yeah.
RFID. Thank you, Houston. Yeah. It's got like an RFID thing in it, and then you can brick your phone and say which apps are selectable when you brick, and then you have to tap that brick again to unlock it. And so I've had to do that because it's like the physical barrier to me. Just sometimes I like without even thinking about it, I'm pulling up my phone and hopping onto it.
Yeah.
And then again, it's like disrupting the connection though, and it takes a lot to restart too. So anyway, fast forward. To close the loop on the story, and then I'll kick it back to you. So she's busted me now 3 times on the phone, and I fall asleep in my son's room. I come down about an hour later. She's just starting to nod off. I'm like, hey, are you mad at me? And she's like, no, I'm fine. I'm just tired. And then I asked again because like I know her, but she'll suppress stuff, so you got to pull it out of her. And I'm like, no, come on, you mad? And she's like, no, I'm just tired. Anyway, the next morning, she beat me out of bed. So it's about 5 o'clock in the morning. I walk out there and she's sitting out on the couch reading her Bible. And I walk by and I sit down real quick when my coffee's brewing, and she's like, "Hey, last night really bothered me." And then she unraveled all the stuff that I just shared with you too. And I was like, oh man, I knew she was a little bit cold when I went into that room, but it was my doing, and it was all from the tech.
Okay.
So
One thing I love about that story is, I mean, that's a good example for your church. You know, listen up, folks. It's called repair. You know, you have these small micro ruptures throughout the day and throughout the week because we're human. We're all going to have those. And if you let those go without doing anything about that, you'll end up having tears in the relationship. So those small repairs about, hey, I wish I had done something differently. How are you feeling about what I did? Those are great repairs. One thing I think is important, you know, that a lot of couples complain about in parents is they don't feel prioritized by the other person, and they can give examples. And so one thing I would say is a practical thing is, and this is kind of hard, especially for people that are coming home from work or coming out of the home office, is after work is done, all the screens in the house are off. And to think about the intentionality, I mean, because parenting and being married, it's a lot of work. There's a lot that goes on. And so to me, I mean, I'm kind of like let's just keep it simple. And one of the simple things is, what do I long for with my partner? And when I say partner, I spouse, girlfriend.
yeah,
You know, what do I long for with them? What do I long for with my children? And then also, what's one hurt that I might be feeling? And so every night, what do I long for with this person? And so when you have that intentionality in your mind, that's because most of us can multitask pretty well. I'd say have that on the medium burner, so that gives you the push to get the kids structured to bed as you spent time with them, and the intentionality comes back in, and hopefully your partner's got the same goal, so then you can come back and meet, you know, at the end of the night, or another part, maybe the mornings are better, you know, for y'all as couples.
So before we pivot off of the tech stuff a little bit, one thing. So I've read a book. If you're looking for a good book to read on, I think, family rhythms and dynamics, it's called Habits of the Household. I don't remember who the author is, but I crushed this book late spring through the summer, and there was one really convicting quote to me. It was, the things that we consider normal in our house tell us everything. And that quote just punched me in the face, because I was like, man, what are the habits? And I started thinking through some of the regular rhythms that we have that just happen on autopilot. And I'm like, man, I actually don't like that thing. And one of those was the technology. I didn't like how the TV was on for the kids first thing in the morning. Didn't like my relationship with my phone, which is why I went and got that brick. And then also just probably to save my marriage, and because that was, again, our biggest fight. So on the tech side specifically, one thing that we have started to do, at least this summer, again, we're a work in progress with this, but we're about 4 months into this, where we've really been limiting screen time for the kids. And in fact, the way that we ended up doing this is, whenever they got in a fight or they did something that we didn't want, that was the first thing that we took away, because we knew they didn't like it, but it was also easy to hold to, because it was a discipline that we actually wanted to make a discipline in terms of like a habit. You know, not a consequence, but a daily discipline that we've got boundaries with tech. And so it was a double win-win. And what we noticed is, so they're grounded from TV, let's say, for a week. And my two kids, who are normally like just oil and water, and like one of the most biggest parenting exhaustions I have is refereeing those two kids, because it's like they just fight all the time. And all of a sudden they were playing together.
Oh, cool.
Creatively coming up with different concepts in the house, and different games and forts and things that they were doing, because they didn't have the TV to go to. It was weird, because it almost felt like the whole agitation level of the house between those two dropped. Do you know of anything study-wise or anecdotally that would say technology does elevate us from an agitation level? Or, I don't know, what have you seen with that in terms of just tech and kids and its impact on kids? TV, phones, whatever.
Yeah, I would say technology is very deceptive, because it can take an anxious, hyperactive, busy kid, and all of a sudden they're what? They're focused, they're quiet, it's unfortunately like the nanny in the house. It's the babysitter in the house. But what that tech is doing, it's hyper stimulating the prefrontal cortex, which is about that much developed for a little child, and their minds are not supposed to be in that rhythm because there's so many sensory inputs that are happening, and it causes us to get drawn into it. I mean, even as adults, we get drawn.
Yep.
We can't manage it, right? So much less a little child. So just what you experienced is God's created us to interact with the real world and figure out real world problems. And if you'll notice when kids play, they don't just play cooperatively, they actually create problems and solve problems in their play. And so there is research that will show that the more kids play just with real things, not with technology or screens or phones or TVs, when they become teenagers, they have better decision-making skills, they have better self-regulation, they have healthier relationships, and they do better scholastically.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, it was like a light bulb moment. I mean, just to see how they interacted differently when there was less tech was like, wow, we need to keep pressing in on this. And I was telling Jenna too, I said, I feel like it's more important than ever to have the technology boundaries, because I was telling her and explaining, like, when we were kids, we didn't have on-demand shows. Like, remember when you woke up and it was like, get ready for school, there was nothing on TV, but now everything's on demand. So you can like binge watch and screen, like watch anything, anytime. Like for me, I had to wait until Saved by the Bell came on, or Full House, or Fresh Prince, or like my go-to shows. And it was in a pocket of time, like the first hour after school. And then it would go to other stupid shows that I don't really want to watch. But now, again, those are on demand. And so I think there's not that natural buffer is what I'm trying to say. And I was telling that to Jenna. She's like, oh my gosh, you're so right. Like, it makes the need for boundaries even that much greater, I think.
Right.
That's just something I've been kind of wrestling with in our own house and learning a little bit. So
one thing I've been seeing with younger and younger kids is waking up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And parents are like, I don't know what to do about that. And I'm finding, because I work directly with the kids are like, yeah, I want to get on this program, or I want to see this show, or I want to, see the latest Minecraft build or whatever.
Right.
So what that tells me is they're actually thinking about that when they go to bed.
And they're waking up with it, wanting it, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, quick culture rant, too, because my kids do this, and I don't understand this. I don't understand the next generation. They will, like, watch Minecraft YouTube videos...
Yeah.
Or like other people gaming online, and that they call it entertainment. And I'm like, my friends and I, we got in a fight over the controller when I was growing up. Like we didn't want to watch anybody play video games. We wanted to play the video games. I'm like, what is happening? So it's a dopamine hit. I don't know where that doesn't even seem like it would give me a dopamine hit. But anyway, I don't know why they do that.
Well, now there's research that shows that for the first time in history, at least in our country, there's been an inversion where there's more girls getting into college and finishing college than there are boys. And so
interesting.
Yeah. And so don't hear any like diss of the girls, but the thing is then I ask, well, why is that happening? There's 2 reasons. They're on screens and they're on pornography.
Okay, I didn't think we were going to go here. I love how God will just go where we need to go.
Yeah.
Before we planted Portrait, I was a young adult pastor or next gen. So I did young adults and I also did youth. Specifically within a lot of the young men getting ready to graduate high school, going into college, or even coming out of college, or a lot of them didn't go to college. You're right, actually, now that I think about it. There was a lot of apprehension, too, from these guys to put themselves out there, whether it was relationally or even to try to like go for the goal and the dream that they had from a career occupationally. What is that? Have you noticed that in the young adult, like the younger men generation specifically, struggling to, I don't even know the right language to put behind it. It's like almost like there's this fear to fail, and so then they just don't do anything. It's almost like they're slightly paralyzed. Have you noticed that?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And why? Like, what is that then?
Well, it goes back to the disconnection with parents, and so the lack of quality time with parents. And so you got to understand, like, sometimes we mistake quality time with parents and our children as like sitting down and teaching them something or talking to them about something. But if you go back to the Old Testament, what are parents supposed to do? Teach these things, remember these things as you walk by the way, as you live day to day.
Yeah, it's like daily integration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so children are being mentored. They're supposed to be mentored daily, not just in information, but how to apply knowledge to real world situations. That's what the benefit of one-on-one time with parents is. The other thing I would say is the allure of video stuff is that it's a simulation. It's fake life, right? It's virtual. So it puts the child in the driver's seat of something that's not real, but it's touching things that are real, like your dopamine, like your serotonin, like your decision-making skills, like your initiative. One thing that's healthy it's like a developmental step for teens. And David, my perception of when is a child a preteen? Kids are preteens when they're about 9. Okay, so you'll see like around age 9 and 10 that kids want to start taking more risks. So we can help them as parents to either, if we don't help them take healthy risks, they're going to take unhealthy risks. And one of the challenges that kids have, like, what are they saying? I want more freedom. I want more privileges. I want more opportunities. They want things to take healthy risks. But they haven't learned how to manage the basic things of life. And so parents are like, why should I do that if you can't accomplish these things? And that's what a lot of our kids are doing. They're accomplishing missions. They're building these amazing worlds. They're simulating what God has really made us to actually do in real life.
But then because there's not, if I hear this right, but you're saying also then like parents are almost not pressing into giving their kids healthy risks.
Yeah.
So then when it comes into even more riskier things, when they come into adulthood, they like are risk adverse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teens, it's almost like clockwork. In the fall semester of a senior's year, they're going to start coming in. We get a lot of seniors coming into counseling because they're anxious about leaving home and going to college. And, leaving home at 18 is like the ultimate healthy risk. But if they haven't been taking healthy risks prior to that, it's almost like a failure to launch.
So give us some examples. What would be healthy risks that we could subject our kids to in elementary school, then middle school, and then high school? So let's go those 3 life stages, healthy risks at each stage.
Yeah. So one fundamental thing to remember is power and control is really important to all of us, even to kids. And when they need power and control, so letting them choose and pushing them towards healthy risks gives them power and control. That's how they learn how to take initiative. That's how they learn how to make decisions. A good example of healthy risk is maybe this friend that you're hanging out with is not the best influence. If you choose to, you can choose to build a new friendship and use new skills in building a new friendship. Well, they're in my friend group. What do I do about that? What will everybody think? You get to use your skills to figure that out yourself. And I'm seeing, and this is the wonderful thing about counseling, is when you work on these things with families and you see kids at the age of 12 and 14 actually leaving a friend group that's unhealthy and choosing a new path, they need those skills when they leave home. I say another thing would be changing a sport or asking for or pushing into their conditioning and training to be really good at a certain position or trying a new position. Another thing could be, I'm not sure if I want to focus on math, I'm not sure if I want to focus on science, and not just going to school, but getting a tutor and getting extra tutoring. Another thing could be, the family deciding that they're going to move in a neighborhood closer to friends so they can have more neighborhood time. That would be one. I'd say another healthy risk is getting off your phone with your friends and initiating those conversations with friends too.
Yeah. So here's one thing I was navigating with my oldest son, Matt. He's gotten into tracks his cars. He's really wanting for his birthday. He wants like this new setup like that has a boat trailer and that you can anyway whatever. We've been trying to incentivize him to earn money to go get one of these like kind of really high end remote control cars. So at a healthy risk though, because he's wanted to spend like he's been saving, he's been working really hard, and then like just a couple days ago he goes, I'm gonna go buy, I can't even, it was something stupid like a fuzzy something like something dumb off of Amazon that probably came from like, Oriental Trading Company or something like that. Like it's like a 50-cent trinket that he was going to spend like $15 on. Mm-hmm. And my tendency, I was like, dude, you need to save up your money. Like you're saving. I was trying to remind him, you're saving for this. He's like, doesn't matter. It's my money. I'm like, no, I'm not going to let you buy that. But by doing that, I'm actually taking away control or almost a healthy risk in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Let him spend it and then see the consequence of that poor decision.
Exactly.
It's not going to kill him.
Exactly.
He's not going to end up on crack because he spent money on a fuzzy instead of saving it up. So
now the difference,
that's what you mean then, right?
Yeah. And what I love about what you're saying is that's also the parent taking initiative to decide when am I going to push them to take a healthy risk and when am I going to give them management that they can't manage themselves, as opposed to just being neglectful and like, he's got $15, he'll spend it however he wants to.
Right. Yeah. Okay, man, that's really, really helpful. Let's go back to the pornography thing. Are you seeing people come into counseling trying to fix that addiction and that dependency?
Not as much, and
Okay.
so because there's so much shame around it.
Yeah.
And I would say, to me, it goes back. It doesn't matter if it's a teenager or an adult, and many men and women are doing this too. And
It's not just this is not just a guy thing.
Yeah, there's
anymore.
a lot of girls getting drawn into this too. But again, it goes back to intentionality and quality human relationships one-on-one time. And that central question, just one simple question: what do I want from another person? What do I want to experience? I want to be close. I mean, God's made us to have connection. He's made us to be not alone but interactive. And so once kids lose track of that, they get lost in the simulation again, which is pornography.
I've heard it said that within the context of pornography and when people end up with that sort of porn addiction or whatever, that oftentimes it's actually symptomatic of a deeper rooted issue.
Yeah.
Like it's maybe the way that they're trying to control their stress and they don't even know it, or I can't remember of all the different examples. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely be a coping mechanism.
Yeah, coping mechanism is the way to...
I mean, I would say kids get involved in that before a test. It's a distraction. Again, it like hyperstimulates the dopamine, right? And the adrenaline. It's a brief high. One thing I'd say, instead of waiting, for me in counseling and in relationships, instead of waiting for somebody to come in with that as a presenting problem, especially the males, I just say it right out loud. I mean, it's on the table. Like, you're probably using unhealthy content. You've got to not just pull back on that. You've got to completely stop it.
And what do they say? Are they kind of nodding their head like, yeah, that's...
I'd say 100% guys are like, yeah, I'm actually doing that.
Yeah, sure. And I've heard a lot of that too, just from sit down, with guys that are struggling with that.
And girls too. I mean,
I'm just saying I've never talked to a girl about that other than my.
Yeah. I'll change stories of counseling stuff, but I was working with a little girl. This is a number of years ago. She was like 6, and she'd gotten stuck in pornography. I said, honey, how did it happen?
6.
And she goes, I don't know, Mr. Dean. I was looking at Cinderella dresses, and then one girl had really pretty shoes, so I started clicking on the shoe advertisements. Then the next thing, it was a handbag. Then the next thing, it was all these dirty images.
Whoa.
3 clicks, and she was there.
Dang.
Yeah, 6 years old.
That's sobering.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big fear for me. I told, I didn't really want to, this is going to sound bad. When Jen and I were talking about having kids, like I was really hoping to just have boys primarily to save money and not have to go do the nails and the hair and the marriages and, pay for all that stuff. But also I was like, basically I was like, all I have to do is raise 2 boys to treat other women well, compared to like keeping all the sleaze bags away from my precious daughter. It was kind of my thinking. So if you're a girl dad, mad props to you, because that just seems really daunting. But one thing that is daunting to me right now, so my son is about to be 9 next month, and it's been on my radar for a while that most kids are exposed to pornography right around 9. I heard that might even be getting younger, and then you bring up this 6, this girl that's 6, and so counsel us, because I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but I'm not looking forward to the conversation that I need to have with Matt. That's on my radar. Jenna's been pushing me. She's like, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? I'm like, I'm just waiting for the right moment, and I did breach the conversation with Matt loosely the other day. I said, hey, we need to have a really serious conversation about boys and girls and all these big feelings. I was like, hey, do you want to get away and go somewhere just like on a quick retreat, you and I, or just talk about it at home one time? And he actually opted to just talk about it at home one time, which was interesting. But anyway, prepare me for that conversation, because it's not one that I'm particularly looking forward to.
Yeah.
Though I know the clock is ticking, and it's very, very important.
Yes. So I would say, for one thing, look at those conversations as parents as dynamic. Okay, it's not going to be it will start, like there will be a starting conversation, but start looking at that as a conversation you're going to be having for decades.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Because it's not a one and done.
Yeah. Because
checked that box.
Exactly. Now for boys, I'll say this is with boys, it's a challenge, because I don't know the numbers, David, but like, I think between 12 and 13, testosterone is like ka-chink. Then 13 to 14, it's like ka-chink. And 14 to 15, it's like, it's to the top of the ceiling.
Yeah, it's like, I can totally attest to that. Yeah. It's to the moon and back. You're like, gosh, I got so much testosterone.
Yeah. And the girls obviously have testosterone too, but they've got the other hormones that are affecting them relationally. And so that's a really big challenge. But preparing for those conversations is like what we said before. For us parents, it's a healthy risk.
So at what age? What age would you start that conversation? And then walk me through that starting conversation. What are you hitting on specifically?
Yeah, so I'd say for little kids, okay, before you have like the big talk, it's using real terms for real body parts. Okay. It's not your wee-wee, it's your penis, okay? It's your vagina. It's not your, blah, 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 okay? It's a real thing. Also, your mom and your dad is not for touching in inappropriate ways.
Yeah.
And that's respect, as well as each other.
Yeah.
So then you're already talking about that in the normal course of the day. It's normal for us to talk about that.
Yeah, so we checked that box, because in my house, I walked out of the bedroom one time, and my son Matt's got a tampon in his hand, and my younger son Cam's bent over. He's like, I think it might go here. My wife and I, we just started cracking up. So we're like, no, that doesn't go there. That's not for boys. So we did name the parts from that conversation. So we've checked that box, but now we got to go to the next one.
Although I think there is a part of our society that thinks the tampon does go there, right? Right? So,
maybe.
But glad it's not in our family.
We probably are in that day and age.
Yeah. So, and this goes back. So I hope it makes sense to everybody that this is where it goes back to that one-on-one time once a week is so important, because if you're not having that, then to have the conversation about sex and making love and relationships, it's a huge jump. And you're not good at it because you haven't been talking about the real things leading up to that time.
Man, that's actually, this takes me back to my childhood, because my parents actually did a really good job.
Oh, cool.
We had family dinners every single night.
Love that.
I'd say at least 80 to 90% of the time. We're sitting down, we're having dinner together. You know where the most crazy, off-the-track, wild conversations happened? It was around the dinner table organically. That's where my dad started talking to me about the dangers of pornography. Yeah. I don't even know what else. I mean, and we talked about drugs and everything. Like every single thing that a parent probably needs to talk to their kids about wasn't this like formal sit down. It was literally at our family dinner table. Mm-hmm.
There's actually, I think I got this link correct, but like familydinnerproject.com.
Yeah.
And there's research that shows like if you just have dinner together as a family with all the screens off, your kids, it's the same thing. Your kids will do better in school. They'll do better in relationships. They'll do better with decision making. And that's exactly it. And that's a practical thing.
I actually
right?
read that when I was a youth pastor. I read, I think the stats are like 75% of kids that are raised in the church, once they go to college, they'll actually kind of go away from their faith. Mm-hmm. And then the data is still out there. Do they come back? Like I had a prodigal season in college for sure, but I came back, obviously. But there was multiple different things like having another mentor, adult mentor outside of the mom or the dad was one of the factors. But one of the other ones that was really eye-opening to me was what you just hit on was families that had dinner 4 times or more. I might be slightly misquoting the cadence there, but I think I remember it right, that it was 4 times a week that they were having a family sit down meal together and the importance of it. So I've read something similar to that even impacts faith journeys, which I think is eye-opening for our society because we're so busy rushing from ball fields to this activity to that. And it's like, man, we're just grabbing Chick-fil-A on the go. And then what might that be doing to malnourish us relationally? Mm-hmm.
There was a interesting and encouraging client moment I had not long ago where both the parents, and we have like super great parents in this region. A lot of us are smart, very athletic, backgrounds, and they were both NCAA athletes, the mom and the dad. So they had 4 kids, and they were super active. They each had like sometimes 2 and 3 sports, and they realized like we literally can't have any meals together. And so one of their healthy risks was like, okay, we're going to make a decision as a family. You can have one sport that you're going to focus on, and you can have one personal training that goes with it. And what that did is like kids were like, I don't want to do this, and I'll lose friends and all this kind of stuff. But those kids have graduated from high school, and they've gone on to other things, and nobody is saying like, gosh, I really missed out. I didn't get to play 3 sports. But they had what they substituted is the quality time at home with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe that's the application that somebody needs here, is just to go, hey, I'm going to commit to getting my family gathered around the dinner table with a regular cadence to that. Because, again, going back to my childhood, that's where our conversations on sex and porn started, was around the dinner table. Yeah. And because we had almost broached the topic in such a non-assuming environment when the stakes were higher, it definitely felt more accessible to have that conversation with my dad later on, which is what you were kind of saying a little bit earlier about you can't just jump having skipped the progression of like you said, naming the body parts when they're 5 or 4 or whatever age that is, and then starting to kind of warn them about, hey, there's inappropriate content. If you've ever seen it, let me know about it. Like, this is what I want you to avoid. And then kind of stepping up progressively. You've got to have that, I think. Otherwise it's probably like just this monumental leap to have. Yeah.
One thing I've realized in my parenting is you can get convinced that you know everything about your kids when they're little, and that because you're telling them what to do, you're directing your family, people are, your kids are following what you're telling them to do, these kind of things. But you find, and I started to find, like when my kids were like 9, 10, 11, because we've been spending one-on-one time, they started to tell me things that they were struggling with. I'm like, I never knew that you were struggling with that. I never knew that you were actually thinking that way. And so there's so many pressures on our kids. And so what I would say is like I realize we assume from our children that they know what to talk about, as if they've been a teenager before, right? Like when you become a teenager, you don't know what questions to ask as a teenager because you've never been a teenager. And I've had to learn this in my parenting. Like when I became a parent, and I think all of us can agree, like you don't just get subtly endowed with parenting knowledge, right? You have to experience it. And it's experiential. So like as a parent, this is where mentoring really comes in. So like I'd say, instead of asking, have you seen bad content? We should assume when you see bad content, here's what you can do, buddy. When we wait, to wait to see if our kids have feelings for the opposite sex or even the same sex is to be initiating those conversations because they really don't know how to talk about it. And that's where, to me, that's the fun part of the risky feelings of parenting is walking into those conversations.
Right.
Because you feel I don't know about you, but you feel such an inadequacy, right?
And that's all the time.
And for me, that's one of the benefits of being a believer, being a Christian, is that you draw on the power of the Holy Spirit to help you with those things.
Yeah, that's good. I want to pivot to marriage, but before we pivot to marriage, when we first started interacting and meeting one another, we hung out. We were at 1418 Coffee, and you said two things that I haven't stopped thinking about when it came to parenting. You said, first off, you challenged me to the importance of going, hey, spend 20 minutes, I think it was a week, with each boy, which I'm really good at playing with the boys, and I think I do that more times than not incidentally, but I've noticed that also a lot of times I'm with both of the boys, and you're like, that's good, you need that, but 20 minutes with each individual kid per week, which is attainable for everyone. So why did you give me that advice? Like, talk to me on that.
I love that. So I've experienced that as a dad myself and also as a therapist. So, and I've done research on this because when I went through my play therapy training, and Dr. Gary Landreth, if you know the play therapy world, he's like the mojo of play therapy and kids. But research will show that the biggest therapeutic factor for children, so therapeutic factor is a big word, therapeutic factor for anxiety, therapeutic factor for depression, for scholastic problems, for behavior problems, for potty training, for decision making, is actually not therapy or the therapist. It's the relationship that child has with the parents. And so I've had to think, okay, so how do I put the cookies on the table for myself and for parents? And I've had to look at what counseling is. All counseling is 45 minutes once a week with another person with no distractions, where I'm completely listening to them, I'm completely focused on them, I'm talking about the decisions that they're making sessions, whether it's a teenager or a little kid, and somehow they get better. And I've never had a child walk out of our sessions and finish and go, that technique that Mr. Dean used was amazing. It's the one-on-one time. And so then what I tell parents, I got a deal for you. If you'll spend 20 minutes, just starting off for the first year, spend 20 minutes with each of your kids, and by the end of a year, try to get to 45 minutes once a week consistently, your child will get out of therapy sooner and you'll save money. And it works every time.
Man, okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's so attainable and so doable, 20 minutes each individual kid. Now let's pivot to marriage.
Let me say one more thing about that that's important. So I started doing that with my kids when the triplets were about 5 and my youngest one was about 3. Okay, and so now the triplets are 20; they're out of the house, and my youngest one is 18. She's leaving next week for college. Our conversations now, and again, like when you make that commitment as a parent, your seasons are like this, just like mine. They're imperfect. Some seasons you're really consistent with that every week, and some seasons you're not. We've been pretty consistent, for over 14 years, okay? The conversations I have with my girls now, they last on average 2 to 3 hours a time. And so I'm telling you, and I shouldn't even say that they're conversations, because really all I do is listen. And I've heard, because at the time that your kids have left, you don't want to be asking what they've done that's wrong. You want the relationship to be so strong that they're telling you what they struggle with and they're telling you what they have done that's wrong.
But that trust is built up.
Exactly.
By the personal, undivided attention and one-on-one time.
Yeah, and consistently over years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with marriage, what's the core issue that are leading couples into counseling right now? Is there a core issue?
Yeah. The core issue and I'd say a lot of couples come into counseling at about 10 years of marriage because that's when the shiny part has come off of the marriage.
It takes a decade to see all the blemishes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so 10 years is kind of average, I'd say. But the thing that's prevalent, it's called the negative cycle. And it's where it doesn't matter what the subject is, both people get stuck in a negative cycle. It can be attack, defend. It can be attack, withdrawal. It can be withdrawal, withdrawal, where something happens in the conversation and both people react or underreact to each other, and they get stuck in a negative cycle and they can't get out of it. And then the problem with that is that those primary emotions of anger and frustration and blame are so strongly exhibited either in words or actions that those underlying needs and hurts and wants can really never be discussed.
So if somebody's in a negative cycle, whether it be in passivity and they're just kind of reclusing, or is another negative cycle just like anger and stuff? Okay. Yeah. So if somebody's in a negative cycle that's just been repeated over and over and over, how does somebody snap that?
Great question. So, I mean, one thing, this goes back, I mean, if you think about your just one evening at a time with your spouse, so what's your intentionality? You know, if it's to connect on some level, then you're going to be very attentive to even the slightest response or reaction from the other person. And those are things like listening is a real skill to develop in marriage, just like it is in parenting. And so it's listening verbally, but listening non-verbally. And so it's really paying attention to those slight ruptures that a couple has and not letting them go, but vulnerably going back to the other person and repairing those things.
Yeah, okay. And just so being able to pick up on those cues when something's off and then not letting it linger, address it. So you almost have to have some of the hard conversations, even if they're uncomfortable up front. Otherwise, it doesn't just go away. It just grows.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about in more severe cases where trust has seemingly completely been abused or all trust has been lost in a relationship? How does a couple go back to begin to rebuild that trust that is so foundational to every relationship, especially marriage?
That's a great question. I mean, I would say for one, I think integrity and honesty is important. So here's, you know, if you're thinking of yourself and that's impacted you as a partner in a relationship, is thinking about how has that trust been violated to me, or how have I violated their trust? And instead of making it some big, complicated task to approach, it goes back to these one-on-one conversations of like, okay, I don't know how to do this conversation. I don't know how to start it, but I'm going to go talk to her or go talk to him about the hurt, the longing that's not getting met. And then, vulnerably starting those conversations. I'd say also it's important, you know, not everybody needs to go into counseling, you know, when they have things that they're stuck in. To me, this is the important part and the great part of being part of a local church and part of a life group or a small group is being in groups where there's older couples that are more experienced, there's younger couples that are more experienced, there's singles and divorced people that are experienced, and you can lean on your community, not just to get feedback and clarify how you're feeling, but how do I have this conversation? What have you done as examples?
Okay, so to rebuild the trust, it starts first with the vulnerability of like, hey, this has been breached.
Yeah.
And then from there, how can somebody earn back that trust?
So one of the conversations for repair is, I mean, you have to understand, like when we all need to understand is like when feelings are affected between you and another person, the emotions are really, really heightened, okay? And so that's where defensiveness can come in and reactivity. And so one thing I'd say is like less words is better. And when I've had breaches of trust or hurts in my relationships with my girls or my friends, the thing that I've done is like the first question, when I said this or when I did this, how did I come across? So I always start off with accountability. And I say in marriage, it's super important for the man. I mean, we're created to lead, right? So start off with with accountability. How am I coming across that's affecting you? And then hopefully you're getting feedback, and that's what you can be accountable for. I think it's important if you ask the person that you're in a relationship with how you've affected them, and they tell you, you've got to listen. Like as men, we can often go, well, you wouldn't be feeling this way if you had done blah, 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 blah. And so, the other person will feel blamed by what you're saying.
Yeah, it takes like extreme humility, I think.
Yes.
And I don't know. Yeah. For me, like one of the spots I've struggled actually most is when Jenna is the one trying to correct me or point out spots in me. I'm more defensive with her than I am with somebody else, which is so backwards. I should be so much quicker to just receive it from my wife than I should be with somebody that knows me half as well or a fraction of what Jenna does. And so that's convicting because, sometimes I'm more defensive with her than I probably should be.
The thing, we go back to Genesis. God's design for marriage is to be naked and unashamed. And to me, that means that's not just physical intimacy. It's being able to let this other person see the weaknesses that you have, and that we are sinners.
Dang, that's so good. I have never even thought about that nakedness and the shame, and hey, because Adam and Eve, they were naked, which is totally vulnerable, totally bare, before sin entered the picture.
And as soon
I never heard that interpretation of that before.
And as soon as it did, well, what happened? He blamed God for giving him her, and then she blamed the snake.
Yep, blame game started.
And what did they do?
And then they covered and hid.
Well, first they separated.
Yeah.
And then they covered and hid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And God had that's a wonderful thing about God. He's not just looking down, watching this happen. He went down to the garden and asked Adam first, "What are you doing?" So going back to that conversation, when your partner lets you know how you've hurt them, it's to listen and take accountability. So, here's an example. You haven't prioritized your partner, okay? You've prioritized something else. Accountability looks like that. You're right, honey. I did that to you. I made that choice. I watched those screens. I prioritized my work. I prioritized money. I prioritized time with friends. I haven't prioritized you. That's on me. Nobody's to blame. That's on me. Then the second question is important.
So that builds trust.
Exactly. The second question is really important. Then after you've given that, you notice I haven't said, "I'm sorry" yet, okay? Then the second question to follow up is even more important. So when I did that to you, how did that make you feel? And so this is where integrity comes in, because if you really think about how you're hurt by somebody and they're actually asking you to tell them how you hurt them, that's a risk. That's a healthy risk. And that's where, well, how can you do that as a person? I'm just telling you, if you don't have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ, it's extremely scary. It's scary even if you do, but if you have a relationship with Christ, He's got you secure so that you can invite. You're saying, "I'm completely naked and unashamed. Tell me how I've hurt you, because I love you." Because you're secure. Our security should be in Jesus, okay? And so then you got to also accept that some of the feedback may not be fair, okay?
Ooh.
Some of it may be, and this is something that I would say a lot of us are challenged with. And I would say that in marriages it happens a lot. It's called flooding. Well, you did this, you've done these 5 things that have really hurt me. And I'd say it's so important to give a person just one thing at a time.
Oh, so avoid the flooding thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm hearing in all of this stuff is that the importance of communication.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable with one another, telling each other what you need, where things have gone off the tracks or off the rails.
Yeah.
Being prudent and asking the Holy Spirit to go, man, what thing do I need to address, and not flooding them with the information like you were just mentioning. I had heard it said, there was another counselor that one of my good buddies is married to, and I was asking her this one time, and she said, typically marriages are more resilient than we think, they can bounce back from even some of the big things like infidelity, financial calamity, different things like that. They said as long as the couple learns how to communicate healthy and effectively. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So then, piggybacking off of that, as we get ready to wind down, give us like 1 to 2, like core key components to healthy communication in a marriage.
Okay. So the conversation about how have I hurt you it's kind of like the conversation about sex with kids. It's not static, it's dynamic. So if we make the assumption that because we're sinners, we're going to hurt each other often. So this is not going to be a one and done conversation. It's going to be something I'm going to pursue often throughout the month. And so when it becomes normal that we talk about these things, then it's even richer to talk about the longings. Here's what I enjoy about you. Here's what I miss about you. Here's what I need and want with you. So one thing, getting back to your question, what are a few core things? It's understanding, and many couples are hurt by not feeling that they're telling me is not feeling prioritized, that something else is more important, and not feeling heard or not feeling seen. And so I'd say having intentionality each day to listen to each other and pursue those topics that are going to naturally come up. And the second thing would be authenticity and integrity and vulnerability. And that's, hey, I think something's off between us, or I think something's off in my parenting. It's really having those intentional conversations too.
Opening yourself up to. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, this has been really, really, really helpful. I think that there's going to be some golden takeaways for people with this. Where can people find you, your practice? Just give us that quick kind of bio drop.
Yeah, thank you. So I work with Prosper Counseling. We're downtown Prosper, not too far from the silos. And just give us a call. And we've got like 20 people on staff and lots of different expertises and skills. So just give us a call.
Awesome. Man, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us. Hope you were able to take some wisdom away from Dean Wisdom. All right, toodles.